Congressman Chip Roy joins us now, and from the Republic of Texas. It's good to see you, sir. And golly, you are, well, now you're in the fire, aren't you?
Well, that's what we do when we run for office. You know what you're going to get when you're out there and you try to fight for the ideas and the things you believe in. And look, I'm not going to back down. I mean, let's be very clear. Right? This hearing was a political hearing designed to try to target President Trump and others who use phrases like China virus or the Wuhan virus or something like that to say that somehow that's connected to a random act of violence or shooter in Atlanta, Georgia, which obviously is a tragedy. But the point I was making in the hearing is we believe in justice. And that's my career as a federal prosecutor, as a first assistant attorney general. My grandfather was the chief of police. My great-great-grandfather was a Texas Ranger. I believe in justice, period. And I quoted a Willie Nelson and Toby Keith lyric that goes back to an old phrase I grew up hearing. That's kind of Wild West Texas justice. We believe in justice. I believe in due process. I believe in all those things. My whole life's been dedicated to it. But we need to focus on rooting out bad guys, cartels, people who kill cops, people who kill folks like got killed in Atlanta, Georgia, and generally. I'm a pro criminal justice guy that I want to get rid of bad guys being on the streets. And that's the point. We should focus on that instead of policing speech like the Chinese communists do.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good point. Talking to Congressman Chip Roy, I was looking at just some of the feedback from this, and there's some Vox reporter was the one who put the spin on it. And I can't even remember his name, but he's sort of like Media Matters JV, put the spin on it. And then, of course, it went from there. And I'm just looking at an assortment of comments about it, and everyone began blowing it up. But that's the point. I mean, to me, it seems incredibly, it's malicious to assert, particularly in the context of, the discussion of criminality and, everything that you all were discussing at this hearing. You have this, what was it, like 50 some odd second soundbite that was taken and put out, and apparently everyone gets as if you're going to go up there and make some sort of like racial comment. I mean, I said earlier, I had a pirate in my family, believe it or not, who was hung off the coast of the Carolinas. It explains a lot, doesn't it? I had a pirate in my family. But that being said, it's law, and that's how back in the days of yore. I can't even believe we're having this conversation, that we have to sit here and explain how punishment used to be carried out. Was it a tactic that was used by white Democrat racists? Yes. But it was also all widely used as punishment. And for someone, I think, Congressman, to assert that you were trying to make some other suggestion is insane to me.
Well, it's clearly false, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's the deal. And the point of the hearing was to go after speech. It was to try to tie people's speech to then behavior. And that's what they're doing here. They're proving the point. That's exactly what they're doing. I am against policing speech. I'm against policing thought. I am for policing and meriting out punishment to bad guys. Right. That's what I'm for. And I make no apologies for standing in that on that principle. And it's frankly a part of the greatness of this country and the rule of law and the greatness of Texas. And when you have the horrors that we've had with respect to race-related crimes, the dragging of James Byrd's notable, obviously, a couple of decades ago, and the thousands of similar crimes that have occurred and frankly still continue to occur. Those are the things for which justice should be carried out, and for which we should have strong, efficient, effective punishment of evildoers. That's, in my view, how you stop bad things from happening. I will never, literally ever, back down from taking that position. And the fact that I quoted a Willie Nelson song, Toby Keith song, in making that message clear, people can try to extrapolate that to something that isn't true all they want, but I'm not going to engage in cancel culture. I'm not going to let them try to drive me out of the public streets. Go for it.
I'm going to come back to that here in just a moment, because I feel like they're trying to take out cancel culture within the House of Representatives as well. Yep. I didn't know what was going on until I looked at the trending topics, and I saw Toby Keith's name was trending. And I'm like, well, what did Toby Keith do? And so I go to the trends and I'm looking, and it's like, it's you. You made Toby Keith's name trend. So that's how I and a lot of other people even found out what was going on in the first place. It was kind of funny. You mentioned cancel culture and how you're not gonna, which I agree. I think this is it. It's a form of cancel culture. I realize not everybody may have the same tone or even agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I use her as an example because she was duly elected by the people of her district, regardless of what people think of how she approaches topics or not. But I've noticed that there's this. It's not a new trend, but the intensity with which Democrats exercise it seems to be sort of new. Every single time either you or one of your Republican colleagues in the House of Representatives does something bad, all these other Democrats are rushing to say, you guys need to give up your seats. You should resign or be recalled. They're trying to redo the election, it seems. What are your thoughts on this and how they're applying this now to Congress?
Yeah, well, just today, Democrats introduced a resolution to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene from Congress. She was just elected by her constituents, knowing full well positions she had taken publicly. And look, I've criticized a few of the things that she has said publicly, and we've had conversations about them. But she's a duly elected member of Congress, representing almost 750,000 Georgians, and now they're trying to expel her, engaging in cancel culture. Twitter shut down her account today. When I talked to her on the floor, she had no idea why. This is continuing to happen. And again, this is why I picked the fight that I picked yesterday on challenging the cancel culture way of doing things. You said Wuhan virus, you're guilty. You said China virus, you're guilty. Anything you say. If I'm for voter ID, Dana, I'm guilty. I'm for voter suppression. I'm against Hispanics because I believe in voter ID. Meanwhile, they're perfectly fine allowing open borders to continue to enrich cartels and to then be used to carry out awful acts on children, women, families, while people are migrants trying to come here and pretend that's somehow compassionate. I'm not going to let Democrats run around engaging in destroying our country, claiming we're evil, canceling our speech when we stand up for the things we believe in, and then turn around and try to say, we're going to take you down. You're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're a bigot. To hell with them. They can kiss my butt. I'm not going to go down that road and allow them to do it.
That's some strong words. I'm telling you right there. He's got his steel toe boots on. We're talking to Congressman Chip Roy. A question for you about just that, because it was a hearing that was looking at the crime rate and criminality against Asian Americans. And I'm curious whether or not it came up at any point, Congressman, the Democrat institutions, Ivy League, universities, et cetera, that have for so long discriminated against Asian American students. I know that now, as soon as Joe Biden got into office, from what I understand, the DOJ dropped a suit or investigation into that controversy. I'm curious as whether or not that came up and whether or not Democrats address maybe perhaps their culpability in some of this because of that. And if they ever apologized, I don't know, for maybe putting Japanese Americans in internment camps because they've always been the party on the wrong side of discrimination historically and really continuing today. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it never ceases to amaze me how hypocritical Democrats can be. I mean, they're perfectly fine rallying around, Robert Byrd, a former grand, whatever he was, Cyclops.
Unicorn, I think.
Crazy titles are of the KKK. But, look, I raised that very issue that you just raised, Dana, in the opening statement, the remarks that I made, that they're picking up these lyrics from a song to try to cancel. And I raised that point. They're not going to address that issue because it doesn't fit their narrative. They don't want to talk about the fact there's open discrimination going on in our higher level universities in particular, and that the Trump DOJ went after this. And then, as you noted, the Biden DOJ dropped it because they don't want to answer that. They don't want to talk about that. It doesn't fit their narrative. Their narrative is about trying to make all of this political, right? Trying to use race to divide us. I'm not an enormous fan of Chief Justice John Roberts, but he had a good opinion on a race-related matter in which he talked about this divvying us up by race is a sordid business. And he could not be more correct on that point. That is what the Democrats do. It is the card they play. And until we're willing as Republicans to challenge that, instead of bowing down to whatever they're going to say, we must do, because of past sins of previous Americans. And that we're now going to have to run away from whatever they say because they're going to cancel us. They say you're a homophobe, you're a bigot, you're a racist. Chip Roy is pro-lynching. again, to hell with them. I know my heart. I know my family. I know my friends. I know what I believe. I'm pro-justice. I'm against policing speech. And again, they can pound sand.
There you go. One last quick question for you, Congressman Chip Roy. You were down at the border. You've been there frequently, but you were down there just in the past few days. We were speaking just yesterday, talked to former acting DHS Secretary under Trump, Chad Wolf, and had spoken with Julio Rosas, who got a lot of footage. And I was really shocked. I mean, he just would stand there and saw, like, what I think in a span of 10 minutes, there were like something like 56 illegal entrants coming right across the border. What we understood originally was, it may be the same level as what was, under Barack Obama. And then we hear, well, it might be 4 times what it was under Barack Obama. And now we're really learning, as we're getting some numbers, that this crisis at the border is anywhere from 6 to 7 times what it was at its highest peak under the former Obama administration. This is unsustainable. I don't see how these border towns are going to be able to deal with this, or border residents that have these coyotes and other individuals crossing their property. They're worried about their safety. And then the individuals that, they do the testing, and it doesn't matter if they test positive or negative. There's no documentation given. From what I understand, bus drivers were not allowed to ask when people were getting on buses and then going throughout, the rest of the country to go to their host families. How does this end unless we fix this quickly? Because I can't see this being sustainable going through summer and into fall and so on.
Well, you're asking all the right questions. I was in Laredo. You've probably seen some of the social media and stories that
you did an interview, and there were people crossing right behind you.
Yeah, I was doing an interview with Breitbart. Ildefonso Ortiz, who's great, works at Brandon Darby. They really follow the cartel story. They're amazing. And we were down there doing an interview right on the Rio Grande. It was about midnight. I had just spent the previous 4 hours traveling around Border Patrol, driving around and along the river. And, I saw 15 apprehensions just while we were there. And now Laredo's different, right, than what you see in the Rio Grande Valley. The Rio Grande Valley, you've got essentially this corridor where you've got literally tens of thousands that are coming up from the Northern Triangle and from Mexico partly, mostly Northern Triangle. And that's the family units, the unaccompanied children. And they're exploiting that part of McAllen and coming right up. That's where we're processing them, heavily catching and releasing a lot of them, and they know it, and that signal's getting sent back. Laredo, you still have a lot of Cartel de Noreste and Los Zetas traffic that's coming through, a lot of drug traffic, Mexicans. Although I was there when we stopped 3 Guatemalan men. They were 18, 19, 20 years old. And so this is just happening. And Border Patrol's outmanned, outgunned. They don't have enough resources. Many of their people are down now running processing centers. This is not going to stop. And here's the big point that we need to end with here is they're going to say they've got this under control when they start pushing the numbers down in these facilities. So they open up this FEMA center in Midland, and now they're going to, at some point in the coming weeks or months, that's going to go away. They'll say the crisis is solved. The way they're going to solve the crisis, it won't be solved. It'll just be continued catch and release while the numbers come up, and they'll just be processing and sending them in the United States. That's how the Biden administration will solve the problem, rather than what the Trump administration was doing, which was working with Mexico to return to Mexico and using Title 42 to push away potential COVID-positive individuals. So that's the story of the border. The numbers are outrageous. This administration doesn't care. They don't care about American citizens, and they don't care about immigrants.
Oh, they only just said it was a crisis yesterday, Jen Psaki, and then, of course, she tried to correct herself, but it was already out there. Congressman Chip Roy, appreciate what you do and standing your ground as well. And anybody who knows you knows that, this ridiculousness that they're trying to throw at you and cast aspersions on your character. It's just, I think it says more about everyone else trying this than it does you. Good to talk with you, and I know we'll talk with you again soon. Take care. Godspeed.